What's up everybody, I'm Tim from Timber Ridge Gifts. So in this video I'm going to show you how to take just plain boring solid color candles and give them a tie-dyed or a marbled look to them. We're going to take just plain white candles, a little bit of dye and effort, we're going to have something cool like that as the end result. So let's go ahead and zoom in and check out the supplies we're going to need. Okay, so we're really only going to need just a few simple things. We're going to need our heat gun. Now there's nothing special about this. People ask me about my heat gun from other videos that I've done. It's really just the cheapest heat gun you can find. You don't really need anything special. This one's from Ace Hardware. It's a store brand they had. I think this one was $12. So you don't need anything special, just whatever heat gun you happen to have. Whatever candle dye you happen to have. We can use both liquid and the dye blocks. Both work great. They work pretty much the same. We're going to use both of those in the video today. Just need some type of metal rod. Just a small metal rod. A wire coat hanger will work great. Once we get further in the video, you'll see what you actually need this for. You can kind of develop your own idea of what you can actually use that you have laying around. And last but not least, whatever candle we're going to be working on. I found that I like working with the white the best, just because the colors show up better. You can use other colors, provided that the candle is a lighter color and the dye that we're going to add in is going to be a lot darker. So you'll be able to see that contrast. Also, you'll notice this is a straight-sided jar, not kind of convex at the top like a mason jar would be. Once we actually go through the steps of how to do this, you'll see why that's important. That's really all you need. So let's go ahead and put all this together. We'll show you how to get that effect in your candles. Okay, so all we're going to want to do is just take our candle, then we're going to take our metal rod. What we're going to do is we're going to just basically poke a hole on the inside of our candle all the way down to the bottom. Okay, let me turn the light off here. Okay, you can kind of see that on the video. There you go. Basically all I've done is just taken my metal rod and just poked it down to the bottom and scraped a hole back on the way up. It's important to go ahead and get as close to the glass as you can. That's why we want to use a straight-sided jar rather than a mason jar or some type of other jar. If there was that curve or bevel at the top, it'd be kind of hard to work our way around it, and we wouldn't get all the way down to the bottom and had that nice clean line along the top of all the way up the jar. So now we're just going to want to do this on either side. We're going to do this 4 times on this jar. A couple of the other ones we're going to do it a bit different way. We're just going to show you the different effects that you can get. So we're just going to turn all the way around, do the same thing on the back side. Okay, now you can see we got 4 holes all the way around. So long story short, what we're going to do to get that effect, we're going to bore these holes in our candle, we're going to put the candle dye in there, then we're going to hit it with the heat gun till the wax around it melts, turns into a liquid, mixes with the dye, then that'll cause the dye to spread out. Once we let it cool, it's going to have that nice marbled effect. A couple different ways we can do it. We can just take the liquid dye in the dropper and just drop it straight down the hole. You can use as little or as much as you'd like. Just remember that with liquid dye, a little bit goes a long way. Okay, so we're going to set that off to the side. That was with 4 holes. Now we're going to do one with 6. With the liquid dye, you don't really want to do any more than 6, just because you're going to have to heat it up so much. Once you get the whole thing heated, it's going to spread so much, and it's not going to have the light on dark contrast that you're going to want to have that marbled effect. Okay, and there you can see we got our 6 holes in this one. We're going to add our dye a little bit differently on this one. Okay, because we have 6 holes in this one, we don't want to use quite as much dye. So we don't want to just take and just put 6 drops of dye in this one. It's going to make it too dark. So what we can do, just going to add a few drops to this piece of tin foil. Now I can just dip my metal rod in there and just coat the inside of the hole that I've made that way. Okay. Now when you're using the liquid dye, really the most you want to go is 6 holes. You can actually do up to 6 colors. We're going to use 2 on this next one. We're going to do kind of a red, white, and blue. Kind of a patriotic look since 4th of July is coming up fairly soon. So we're going to use 2 colors on this one, so we're going to do 6 holes. Then we'll just alternate each color in a different hole. Okay, so we've got our 6 holes drilled in that one. We're going to take our blue. And our red. Okay, and we're just adding blue to every other one. Okay, now we're just going to add our red. Okay, now if we're using our dye blocks, it's the same basic concept. We're just going to have to do it a little bit differently, obviously, because the wax is in a different form. We're going to have to add it kind of differently. So we're going to make our holes just like we've done with all the other ones. Now with the dye blocks, it's not going to spread quite as much, so you can get away with probably adding 8 holes. We're just going to stick to 6 for this one. Okay, we've got all of our holes drilled. Now I've taken one of the dye blocks and just shaved some chunks off of it. Really all we're going to do is just take those chunks and just shove them down in the hole. It's not quite as easy to work with as the liquid, but if this is all you have, it can still work. Okay, so we've got our dye added to all of our candles. Now it's time to heat them up and get that dye to spread and give us that nice marble look. Now we're ready to heat it up. We're just going to take our heat gun. Basically all we're going to do is right on that line where we added our dye, we're just going to concentrate our heat gun in that small area. We don't want to heat the entire candle up. Basically all we're going to want to do is just try to heat this area right here up. And of course naturally the rest of it's going to get warm, but we want to concentrate most of our focus right on this area right here. That's going to cause this to heat up, liquefy. That's going to mix with the dye and it's going to spread. It's going to connect with, once we do all of them, all the areas are going to connect and it's going to give that nice marbled look all the way around. It's going to look something like this. Okay, once you see it starting to melt and spread a little bit, go ahead and back off of it. You can always come back to it later. If you want to get it to spread a little bit on its own, you can take and just kind of wiggle the jar a little bit. I didn't mention this at first. You can just use a tabletop and just turn this with your hand. I've done this enough times with other candles that I've made. It really helps a lot if you have one of these little lazy Susans or these round tables. Just kind of helps you spread your, just kind of helps you turn your candle a little bit better without having to touch it while it's hot. So now we're just going to move on to the other lines that we've drawn and get this to marble up. Okay, you can see it's starting to spread. If it doesn't spread quite far enough, go ahead and leave it at this point. You can always go back to it later and just kind of heat up a tiny area and get it to move over a little bit more. Once you've done this a few times, you can kind of experiment with it and learn where to put your heat to be able to get the spread that you want. So we're going to leave this one alone. We're going to let it dry. If there's an area that needs to be retouched, we can hit that later. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with the one that we added 6 holes to. Because we do have more holes and more dye, we're going to want to watch our heat a little bit more on this one, just to keep the whole thing from getting liquefied and spreading and basically ending up with a burgundy candle rather than a maroon candle or a marbled candle. Now we're just going to let this one sit and spread on its own. Same thing with our red, white, and blue candle. Okay, now we're going to let this one sit. Just remember that just because you don't see it melting and liquefying, keep in mind that you're getting that glass really hot. So even after you take the heat gun off of it, it's still going to continue to melt that wax. So that's why you don't want to leave it on there too long, because you're going to get it to the point you want, but then it's going to be so hot that it's just going to keep melting and spread a little bit more than you want. So you always want to stop short of where you think you're actually at. We may need to get this one a little bit warmer just to get that we may need to get this one just a little bit warmer just to get that solid wax to that solid color to spread. Okay, now we're just going to let these sit, see what they look like when they're dry. We may need to touch them up. They may be great the way we are. We're just going to wait and see. And that's really all there is to it. They're completely dried. You can see how gorgeous they turned out. At this point, if we weren't happy with something about them, maybe we wanted to bring the red a little bit further down, we could just reheat that one spot, get that red to drag out a little bit more until it gets the look that we want. But I think these turned out great. I love the way they look, so I'm not going to do any more with them. These are all set to sell, give as gifts, put on the shelf as decoration, and have yourself some gorgeous candles. Quick, simple, easy way to take just plain, boring white candles, a little bit of color, a little bit of work, and you can have something gorgeous like this. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure you guys stay tuned to my channel, subscribe for more videos, and thanks for watching.